Carlisle City Council meeting, Monday, June 2nd, 2014, 7 p.m. will now come to order. Do we have a roll call, please?
Mayor McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. Zambach.
Present.
Mr. Reynolds.
Here.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Here.
Mr. Kraybacher.
Here.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. If you have a cell phone, if you please turn it on vibrate or turn it off. Appreciate it, please. I can't believe we had people up here that were sorry. All right, well, now have the invocation by Pastor Richard McIntosh, retired Mr. McIntosh. Thank you.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we study your word, we find in the Proverbs that it tells us that the mind of man will make his plans, but God will direct his steps. And that's a wonderful truth and reality when it comes to nations. It's a great truth for our individual lives. It is a truth for this council tonight. And I believe that they realize that as they call us here to open up these sessions in prayer. So I pray, Father, that the decisions that are made, that as they make discussions and pass different agendas, I pray that their planning will be tempered by your grace as you direct them in the way that they should go. They touch many lives in their decisions, a city, and we pray that you'll guide them by your wisdom, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate that. In the back, we have a flag. If you'll join us now, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, action on the minutes of the regular meeting, May 19th, 2014, please.
So moved.
Second.
Dick, second.
I got it.
First, you got it? Okay. You go ahead, please.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. Kraybacher.
Want to abstain due to absence?
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yeah.
Passed 6-0, 1 abstain.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Communications, any communications?
None tonight.
All right. We'll go into the city manager's report then, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening with the city manager's report, I would like to start with the service discussion and our service director, Mr. Kitco.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. I just have one update, and that is I'm still working on from last council meeting about the speed bumps and or speed humps. I've been in contact with some ODOT traffic engineers and others that are a little more familiar in their placement, and once I get all the information, I'll be bringing that towards council for discussion.
Council, any questions for the service director? Yes, Mr. Reynolds.
I have a question. What are we doing to get rid of the graffiti on the bike trail? That a lot more has popped up recently.
Probably once we get caught up with our mowing and our asphalt work, we'll probably get down there and get some of that blasted off or get it cleaned off. I try to make a trip once a week down, but just note or call in where they are specifically, because most of my guys, if they're mowing, they're focused on mowing and they really don't pay much attention to if it is it large graffiti or is it kind of smaller.
Oh, it's quite large. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyone else? Yes.
Talking about graffiti, about the silos, can we say anything to Miami Valley? Is that Miami Valley Feed or what?
Miami Valley Feed and Grain, yeah, it's their silo.
Yeah, their silos and it's got graffiti on.
I know last time the sheriff's department, when they caught the people who had done it, I think they had them repainted or they paid restitution for paint to get that taken care of. But I don't know that other than just letting them know, hey, you have graffiti on your silo, the city hasn't really done anything with them personally.
I'll mention it to Randy and ask him to address it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Could you give us an update on the caution lights for the multi-use trail, please?
Certainly. After getting the paperwork all completed, I ordered the crossing lights last week, and they told me to be about a 3 to 4 week lead time, so I'm expecting them in probably about another 3 weeks. And it'll probably take us just a little less than a week, get them assembled and get them erected on each side of the 235.
So we could expect them probably within a month, sometime in July possibly?
Right.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else? Anything? Mrs. Jones?
And just another word on the crossing lights. This project has taken twice as long as any other project has with ODOT, but they've changed personnel twice, and the paperwork just like started over at least twice, and then every time we get something done, Howie's been on them like since last July. And every time we get it to a point we think they're ready, they come up with another form that they've never asked for before, so it's been a headache. I don't want you guys to think we've been dragging our feet. He has been on it a lot, but it's been a more complicated project than it needed to be.
They are solar fed, is that correct?
Solar with push button and passive microwave.
Good. Good to hear.
Continuing then under informational, I wanted to give you a brief summary of the last 2 weekend events. First of all, the Memorial Day Walk. I think we had 30 to 40 participants, I would guesstimate. I'm going to try next year to do a little bit more advertising on that to get more people along the sidewalks. I was a little disappointed that sometimes we have quite a few people along the sidewalk, and this year it didn't seem like there was. So we're going to try to get the flyers out and push it a little bit harder next year. I think I had it buried in the back of the newsletter too, so I'll try to bring it out so people are more aware of it. But I still think, you know, even though there weren't a lot of people participating, I think it was a very meaningful service, and I think it's something we should continue. The community cleanup, again, I don't know if it was because it was a beautiful day and everybody was someplace else, but the attendance on the community cleanup was very low this year too. We had 53 cars. Usually we have over 100, sometimes we've had over 200. But that wasn't just New Carlisle. Out of the 3 sites, there was only a total of 163 cars, so 50 was pretty much of an average. So either everybody's got everything cleaned up or they were just too busy, but that's something else. We'll probably reduce the number of dumpsters that we get next time. We were going to do that this year, and we thought, no, last year was kind of a fluke, and we'll pick back up again this year, but it just seems to gradually be declining, so.
That must mean that things are getting cleaned up.
I hope so. I wouldn't want to skip to every other year because I think we would get bombarded, so we'll just keep plodding along and maybe just reduce the expenses.
And that one is advertised in the flyer that Ms. Jones sends out, so everyone in the city was notified that we were going to have it, so.
Continuing then under informational, Bobo Park, I just wanted to give you a brief update on what we're doing there. The 2 different departments who have helped us get the seed planted at that and to get it disked. One's with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and one is with Fish and Wildlife. Anyways, both of those gentlemen stopped by last week and were walking through the prairie. It's supposed to be wildflowers and just like a prairie type of atmosphere for people to walk through. However, since it keeps getting flooded, we are kind of getting overwhelmed with things in the dirt that we don't necessarily want. So the one in particular they pointed out was hemlock, which is extremely poisonous. So we had about 6 or 8 people one morning went down there for like an hour. You don't have to pick it up, but you just have to chop it down so it won't go to seed. So they did work on getting rid of the hemlock so that it won't spread. We'll probably bush hog it once this summer just to kind of a little bit more control, but other than that, and the guys framed it with a mower, so it's a little bit neater. But other than that, they're going to look to see if they have any extra seed from other programs and other departments this winter, and they'll reseed it for us too. But it's struggling a little bit, but I think the flooding is not helping. So.
Mr. Craig Walker has a question.
Didn't you have somebody consult you from the National Resources about Honey Creek, about cleaning that up so that it doesn't flood? Is that going to ever happen, or we're just not capable of doing that?
Howie and I met with people from the Clark County Soil and Water Conservation. We tried to get the Corps of Engineers from Louisville to come up, and they have a waiting list that they won't even put us on their wait list to come look to see if they can help us. The Clark County is supposed to get back with us with a recommendation. I'll let Howie get it.
There is no, the log jam that we thought was back there is no longer. The creek flows in its normal during its normal levels. As soon as it comes up, the end of the Elizabeth Company, where their property ends, is where there's a little bit of a bend. That whole hillside is now gone. So anytime that the creek comes up above its normal operating level, it goes straight rather than making its slight jog like it should. And it's straight, goes right towards the ballpark's left field. So while it was flooding before, it wasn't catching the flow. Well, now it's catching the full flow while it's going, before it even really floods. So there's no log jams. It would need, that's why they're taking so long, extensive new earthwork. They're just trying to figure out how they can put a new bank in there.
So that's a project.
Major project.
Major project, right. So we're working with Mr. Alexander too, because of course his second base been washed out, I'll think 3 times now, to the point that they've suspended play on that field until something can be done. But everything's going to involve money, so I'm suggesting that maybe they look for sponsors that can help either do the work or fund it, to bring in a levee type of, levee is what we need, or some kind of a barricade, right, over.
We need like a large bridge torn down and all that concrete go back there. You're probably talking concrete wall the size of this building would be what you would need in that area to help build that back up. Not height-wise, but in length to get it to go where it needs to. It's enormous. I mean, it's probably a 20-foot hill that used to be there that came down. It's just gone.
That's what I was going to ask, if that's possible to get fill from places that are being worked on, and we could utilize that, you're saying? But it would have to be clean concrete?
It would have to be clean concrete, but some are retaking their concrete back for the crushed for the aggregate companies and reselling it in for crushing it to resell to people like us who use that instead of 304. It's about $5 to $6 a ton cheaper.
Did you have a question, Mr. Lawrence?
No, you was talking about that, and I was thinking about the bridges that they're replacing. There's all kinds of concrete, but he answered it.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, then the last thing under informational, we found out on last Thursday or Friday, Waste Management has a problem with the recycling schedule that they gave out to everybody. And a lot of people don't even look at this anymore. It's just like every other week. Okay, so a lot of people weren't going to know that there was a problem. But with the holiday, Memorial Day, and then again, they did it with the 4th of July holiday, where it was supposed to be a green week, and then the next week was going to be a yellow. They have put on the calendar it's a green week and then a green week. So after many emails back and forth, I told them I think the only way we can fix this is that they do the entire city this week and the entire city next week to catch anybody that put it out thinking that this was their week, or the people who didn't put it out this week because they changed weeks on us. So that's what their intention is, and if they need to bring in a second truck, they will do that. So then they called us today and said that they had trouble with the regular trash pickup, and they're asking people to leave it out an extra day. So I would leave your recycling, I would put it out 2 weeks in a row, and if trash was not picked up today, regular trash, leave it out till tomorrow. It should be picked up. If it's not, then call the customer service number for Waste Management. Call me and I'll give you that number. The same thing with the recycling, July 7th. June 30th is a green week. July 7th should be yellow, but they've got it as a green. So both June 30th and July 7th, they will be picking up the whole city for recycling. Hopefully that will fix the situation, but it's going to be a mess.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Zambon.
According to the calendar, this is the green week. Next week is the yellow week. What is going to be the week after next?
Okay, last week was a green week. This should have been a yellow week. So we're supposed to go back to the flyer. Then it'll be messed up again in another 3 weeks with the 4th of July. So I would say we're gonna go with the flyer. This is a green week, next week will be a yellow.
And the week after that is
Would
going
be
to
a
be
green.
green again. So we should, in fact, the greens would have three consecutive weeks in there.
To get it fixed. But they're also picking up the yellow, so. Pardon?
If you're not confused so far, you will be in a moment.
I know.
Just hang in, we'll get it.
And that is the end of my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, council,
Something
any other
about yellow and
questions? Anything? I have one, Madison Street School, been some talk about it, and I know we have a couple organizations that are looking at it to possibly trying to get a grant to go into community, like community use and so forth. Could you just reiterate on that maybe a little bit, that they are possibly trying to work on it? though
See, this
we
is the
don't
first
know.
I've heard of it. None of them have talked to me about any of it. I did have 2 pastors that went through it, just to look at it, but they've never said anything to me about what their plans were, or asked us how much we want for it, or can they remodel it instead of tear it down. Councilmember McIntyre did ask me that question. And what I told you was that I think it was depending on the fire marshal, because at that point, they just had the fire, and I was waiting for him to get back with me as far as safety-wise, whether people would be even allowed to walk through it or anything. After talking to the chief today, though, he said most of it is the way it was before. The only bad part is the stage. Is that right, chief?
Correct.
Where there's still a hole in the stage. So my answer would be that I think we would be willing to entertain an idea to renovate it, but there would definitely be a strict time limit involved, and it would have to be remodeled to the point that it is usable, not just a better state of decay. So, you know, nobody has approached me yet.
Well, it would have to fit the code. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean,
Exactly.
You have to have it up to code or you couldn't
Right,
utilize it.
right. And then, you know, it depends on what use they want on it, because it was changed to an R2 residential, so, you know, depending on what their final use for that area would be, it may need another zoning change, just, you know, that's all, a lot of ifs.
I just wanted to bring that up because I was questioned 3 or 4 times by council members and and also public has asked about it. So just wanted to put that out there.
I'd
Thank
be
you.
glad to sit down and talk to anybody that has an idea for the school. We'd be glad to sell it tomorrow, so anytime.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions? Anyone out there have any questions for the city manager at this point? Anyone? Okay. All right, we'll continue on. Comments, now we're into comments from members of the public. Anyone like to say anything this evening? Yes, sir. You'll go up to the podium, give your name and address if you would, sir.
Kurt Goings, 1104 Cambridge Court. 2 years ago, I was coming down Jefferson on my motorcycle, and when I turned on the church, they had just put the dirt patch down. Almost lost my motorcycle. I was wondering if there was some signage, temporary signage you could put up when you do that. Very dangerous for motorcycles.
We're aware of the whole motorcycle issue because everyone who has these
gravel, right.
in every state has that issue. We Durapatch so much area that we don't have anywhere near the sign. So we probably do, you know, let's say in a mile in a day, but it's all different streets.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
If I see something, you know, I'll contact some other jurisdictions, but I believe in some of the townships, I know the Durapatch, yeah, they don't sign, or, you know, we haven't talked about it. But I'm definitely aware, because that was one of the first things that come up when we were looking at this machine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your concern. We appreciate it, letting us know. Be careful.
Yeah. I'm wearing them now.
Be careful, that's right.
Mayor?
Anyone else? Yes, I'm sorry.
Sir, did you say your name was Kurt Goings?
Kurt Goings, yes.
Okay.
K-I-R-K.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All set? Anyone else? Anyone else like to say something? We're more than welcome if you'd like to. Okay, thank you. All right, committee reports. Any committee reports this evening?
And tonight.
Okay, thank you. Resolutions, we have none, so we'll go ahead and go into ordinances. If you would, please.
Ordinance 14-29, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending Chapter 238 of the codified ordinances of the City of New Carlisle regarding the division of fire.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
motion to adopt ordinance 14-29.
Second.
2 seconds.
And this is pretty self-explanatory. I had given you information from Chief Phillips 2 meetings ago, I believe, regarding a raise of their wages for the fire department. It has been 7 years since their salaries have changed whatsoever. And the memos that I gave you earlier from the chief indicated how our employees are all underpaid compared to the surrounding areas, Bethel, Miami, Bethel, Clark, and Enon. Ours are tremendously lower than those. Even with this raise, in a lot of cases, they'll still be lower. I truly believe you get what you pay for, and if we want to keep people who are trained to do the good job for the citizens, we do have to be competitive with our salary. I'm not saying we have to be the highest, but we should be competitive. And so I'm asking for your consideration on that ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Lawler.
Yes. Kim, question for you. I think I already know the answer, but I want to ask a question, and then I'll ask one after that. If approved, and first and foremost, I believe they deserve a raise too. If it's been 7 years, that's ridiculous. And they do quite a job. My question is, where does the money, if this ordinance is passed, where does the money come from?
Okay, and we were just discussing that before the meeting started as well. The fire department is run totally on their levies and on the receipts from their squad runs. So part of the levies that are capital would be for equipment, but then operational would include wages, as would the money they get from the squad runs would go towards the wages, or could go towards wages as well.
Okay. No money will come from general fund?
No, they are totally operational with their levies and the receipts from the...
I lied. One more question. Can the fund stand the raises?
Definitely. They are one of the healthiest funds in the city. I don't want to speak for the finance director, but in the past, they've always been the healthiest funds.
And I'm learning the history since.
Yeah.
I think even Helly has a good understanding of it also, but it does look at this point that it will.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anyone
Thank you,
else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Craybaugh.
I have a question. What do you consider a full-time personnel? Right in the beginning of the compensation, it says the fire division shall not employ full-time personnel. But then later on, it talks about, if I can find it again, other employees of the fire division shall be scheduled for no more than 78 hours in a 14-day period. There's 32 hours, no, full-time, 40 hours, what's full-time?
Well, fire division doesn't have any full-time employees at all. Most of that was put in there to restrict the amount of hours that we can schedule people for, keep us underneath the wage and hour requirements for the state. So there's no employees that are scheduled more than 30 hours a week.
So when they're staying at the firehouse, do they get paid for being at the firehouse, or do they get paid when they go on the call?
They get paid an hourly rate while they're at the
If they're scheduled there, right?
If they're scheduled.
Not everybody's scheduled there. You have 2 people scheduled there?
Right, we have 2 people scheduled at the firehouse 24/7, and then the individuals that come in on the pay-per-call basis, if there's a fire run, they respond in from home, they get their hourly rate for the time that they're on that particular response.
Okay, let me see if I understand it. I hear sirens, all the time, where I live, being so close. So when I hear somebody going down Lake Avenue to go to a firehouse, are they getting paid to go down Lake Avenue with the sirens on from their house to go to the firehouse?
Right, they get paid from the time of dispatch till the time the run's completed, and that has more to do with workers' comp than it does with us having to compensate them correctly, I guess is a better answer. We have to have them on the payroll from the time of the alarm to the time the response is complete.
So then when they get on the fire truck and they take off, they get paid until they come back.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And even when they come back and they're cleaning up, cleaning fire hose, they're still getting compensated for the time that they're putting in to clean things up.
How many firemen do you have?
We have approximately 56 people on staff right now.
So then certain people are scheduled for certain days.
Correct. We have a 24/7 coverage with 2 people on staff each
It
day.
has been a nightmare. Okay.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Audience, any questions? Okay. We could go ahead and call for the vote, please.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Absolutely.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Collier.
Bear with me here, Mayor, I'm trying to hold my paper every
I
time it's here.
understand.
It's on, it blows
I
everything
saw
out.
your hair blowing away, that's what I was wondering.
Ordinance 14-30, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending section 1066.14 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle, Ohio regarding indigent burials.
Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Then,
move we adopt ordinance 14-30.
Second.
Last year or the year before, we did some extensive updating of our cemetery ordinances, but this is an additional change due to state law changes. In the past, just a couple of the changes, if they were not a resident, we weren't responsible for offering them indigent burial. Now, if they happen to die in the city, am I saying this right? We are responsible for getting them, having them buried. We can still ask for compensation from actual residents, but in the start with, we have to cover the cost. Additionally, in the past, if it was an indigent burial, we did not provide a concrete, a marker, only if they would, if their expenses were totally paid back to the city, would they be allowed to put a marker in. Now, we have to provide a marker. That's just a couple of the changes, but it's all because of the law, the state law changing, so that we're matched with the law.
questions?
State.
Yes.
Well, I know this was mandated by state law, and it'll cost us more money in the long run, I understand that. But one of the things I was happy about, even though it will cost us money, is what you had mentioned in E, section E down here, about providing the headstone with their name and dates and that sort of information. And I think that's really great, even though it costs us money in the long run, because I don't think a decent burial should be dependent on how much is in your checking account. And I'm glad to see that both at the state and local levels, even though, yes, it'll cost us more money, that we're providing for everyone, not just the people who can afford it, that everybody in life and death can have some sort of respect, some sort of honor. So I was really happy about that change to it.
Mr. Craig?
In perspective, how many do we do?
In 17 years I've been here, I think we've had 2 requests, and they both ended up not even, at that time, they weren't residents, and then, or they had a descendant, a child or somebody that could pay. So
it's
we
2
didn't
in
end up,
15 years.
not very often.
Anyone else? Anyone out in the audience? Any comments? Mr. Collier?
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher, Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. As part of ordinance 14-31, Mayor McLaughlin has asked me to read some highlighted areas of the actual ordinance, so I will do that after I read the ordinance.
Thank you.
Ordinance 14-31, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending, subject to the approval of the electors of the city of New Carlisle, Ohio, section 880.04A of the codified ordinances of the city in order to increase the rate of municipal income tax of the city to 1.50% effective January 1, 2015. This proposed tax increase is in particular for police and street expenses. If passed, it would be effective January 1st, 2015 for a period of 5 years and would be subject or to be renewed by the electors of the city of New Carlisle. This additional 0.5% shall be placed in a new separate fund to be used solely for police and street expenses.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 14-31.
Second.
I think Mr. Collier pretty much explained the ordinance. No, that's great. There was a really good article in today's Springfield News and Sun that did a good job of explaining it also. The cuts from the state and the federal level continue every year, and we're having to get by with less and less. It comes to a point that you just can't stretch anymore. Currently, we are spending close to $400,000 a year out of our general fund for police protection. That's including the contract, which is about $380, and then for additional expenses, copiers, vehicles, laptops, tasers, vests, all the expenses involved with running the sheriff's department. We cannot continue to drain $400,000 a year from our general fund, where we are taking that money for the police department. That means there's a lot less in the city that we can do. Our streets, even though we have a street levy, it's not enough to help us actually accomplish any sizable project on the street. Just any number of things, repairs at the cemetery, repairs in the parks, everything that affects your life every day to day in the city is affected by our budget. And if the money is not there, then the services cannot be done. And we want to be able to continue or increase the activity and the services that we offer for the city. And the only way that we can do that is if we have some more money. We talked about doing a property tax, and we had a good committee from the general public and citizens, and they suggested to us that possibly an income tax would be a better way to go. A property tax is the same whether you're laid off, whether you're retired, or whether you're rich, or whether you're poor. Your income tax goes up and down with your income, so we felt like that was the most safe way, the most fair way to raise the money. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you. You did a nice job on that. Council? Yes, Mr. Zane.
Bill was first. Yes, I follow you.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Jones, for those comments. And looking at this, because these sort of things are very controversial, it gets back to the nature of this ordinance. It gets back to the sort of different styles of democracy. You have two main styles. You have a representative and direct, and pretty much they are what they sound like. They are representative as you elect people who then work on your behalf to pass laws and rules, whatever it may be. And in direct, you have the people going and voting directly for whatever it is. You don't see direct that much because holding an election every week for whether or not we're going to replace city light bulb with this company or that company, it gets a bit tedious. You can't always do it. But what's interesting about this piece of legislation is that we had a committee of citizens who came together, looked at the problem, and they said, based on everything, from doing nothing to having a property tax, whatever it may be, this solution is the best solution both for the city and moving forward and for the citizens. As you said, there's been cutbacks from the state, there's been cutbacks from the federal level. The levy that we have for streets that goes to try to get grants, and we're competing with Springfield and Kettering and these other places that have the big interstates, that have the large industry like the Meyer Distribution Center or International, things that we don't have, money that we don't have coming in. And this committee came up with this idea. And then from that, we went and talked to other people in the community. People from the committee did, some people from council, and they got some more feedback and changed it. Some we wanted earmarked, we wanted to go to police, we wanted some of it to go to streets, whatever it may be. And to get back to it, this was made by citizens, not by the city manager, not by council. And therefore, since the genesis of it was regular people, and we got input from all of us regular people, I think that we have a responsibility, at least I feel a responsibility to pass this and have everybody vote on it. If you want it, vote for it. If you don't want it, then don't vote for it. But because it was brought to us by the people, we have a responsibility to allow them to have their voices be heard during the election. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zambon.
I would like to start out with something you brought up. This was generated by regular people. I don't know, you may speak for yourself, but I do not consider myself irregular people. What you
We may
said.
vote on that later.
No. What you said earlier, a couple, 3 points here. The motion before us at this point is to put the decision in the hands of the voters. All we're voting on is putting the ordinance on the ballot. The voters will vote as to whether or not we will or will not have a tax increase. If it's approved, it will be for 4 years, or 5 years, excuse me, and then it will be voted on by the voters again. It will not automatically renew, and it will not be up to the council at that time to renew it. And it's, again, on earned income only. It says salaries, wages, commissions, and other compensation earned. So if you receive a pension or Social Security or teacher's retirement, that would not be taxable. If you receive dividends from investments, rental income from owning real estate, this is not earned income. This is a return on investments and would not be taxable to you. If you receive interest, please let me know what you're getting that, because I can't find it. But it's not taxable if you can get it. So those are the 3 points I'd want to make, which turned into 4 when we discussed the regularity of council.
Thank you. Anyone over here? Any comments? Anyone else? Yes, Mr.
I
Locke.
thought someone else had their hand up. With what Mr. McIntyre and Mr. Zambach said, what it boils down to, and have to be honest about it, is the city's asking for money, and guess who's going to pay it if it passes? The working man, okay? The working man is the backbone of our nation, it's the backbone of this city, it's the backbone of the whole country. That's who runs this country. That's who pays for it. The hardest job sitting on council is to look out there and ask for money. I hate to spend my money, I hate to spend your money, but let's face it, in order for my household to run properly, your household to run properly, anybody else's household to run properly, we have to spend money to do it. I just recently bought a new car. I didn't want to buy a car. I didn't want to spend that money. I had 1,000 places I could spend it, starting right there with my grandkids. Anyway, but I couldn't let my wife go to work in a car that I did not think was reliable and could be dangerous. Therefore, we had to dig down and buy a car, okay? Same way with the city. If we need roads, we need street protection, we have to ask and pay for it. We all have to work together to pay for it. I'm not telling you to vote for it or not to vote for it, and I'm not going to sit here and say, this is going to happen if you don't, or this is going to happen if you do. We all know it. It's not a threat, it's just that we need it. And the city, once again, operates just like our own home does. We don't mystically get money from the sky that falls in and says, hey, fix this road, and fix that road, and buy a cruiser here, and buy a cruiser there. It has to be done. I go to the polls and I vote, and sure, my retirement, I don't have to pay out of it. But my wife works in another city and pays 2%. I have a small business, that pays it. I pay taxes on it. But it's the only other route that this group of people have. The last thing I want to talk about is, and my life go on, is rumors. There are more rumors and out lies floating in New Carlisle right now about this tax. It's been told it's going to be 50% of your wages. I walked into a business the other day and someone says, Mr. Lowry, there was a man in here telling me they're going to take 50% of my income. No, that's not true. Yes, 50% or 1% is a 0.5%. But you can twist words to make yourself look good however you want to, you know. It was also said that if it doesn't pass, the city's going to put it out anyhow. Absolutely not true. I don't know of anyone on this council right now that has lied to people sitting here. I don't know what goes on out in these businesses, but come to council if you have questions and ask questions, then we will answer. And we will answer them to the best of our ability. I can tell you that if I don't know the answer, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'll tell you I'm gonna come back and find an answer, and I won't do it. Okay? But once again, think of the city as your home. It is your home, and that's the way it operates, just like the operator house. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? John, yes.
This is gonna be real quick.
Sure.
Guys said it all. When you operate a business, you produce something or you provide a service. We don't produce anything, we don't have widgets, and we don't produce cars, but we do provide a service. Either way, you have to pay for that service. And you look at your customer base and see if you get a reasonable amount for that service. One of the things that we're providing is, for you to have safe streets and have a good police presence. And in order to do that, you have to go out and ask. You have to ask for a higher cost or higher, you got paid for, some price. I was in the restaurant business a lot of times. I produced, good food, but the distributor, charged me a higher amount. Same thing with the sheriff's department. The contract, it's going to get higher, it's not going to get lower. And so I had to ask my customers for more money. And that's what we're doing. We're asking our customers, the people that benefit from that service, that extra 0.5%. I always thought our income tax was a little bit low anyway, compared to what I used to have to pay down in Kentucky. I used to travel to Kentucky, pay Kentucky state tax, Kenton County tax, Covington tax, and then I don't live in Kentucky. I had to come back here, and I had to pay New Carlisle tax in Ohio, and I didn't get reimbursed on it. But what I'm saying is, when I came back on the council, the very first thing I saw on the budget is that $400,000. And the first meeting I sat in, and I was wondering how long it was going to be for us to come back and say, hey, we can't do that anymore. We're not going to go down to one sheriff, one deputy sheriff. And I like driving on nice streets. I don't like potholes. They do damage to my tires in the long run. So what I'm saying is, that's what I'm looking for. We're asking for the 0.5%, not half of your salary, 0.5%. And according to the figures from Bill Cook and Bill Barry, that should be enough. That should be enough. And that's what we're asking for right now for 5 years.
Mr. Roberts.
Ms. Jones, could you go over, because I know this has been brought up numerous times in the newspaper and things of that nature, the reciprocating tax, why it's not done? Because I know a lot of people, that's usually the first thing. If streets aren't brought up, it's the reciprocating tax.
New Carlisle is what you would consider a bedroom community. That means most of our people live here, but they don't work here. So if we would start into the that would mean that we would have to give the city of Springfield or the city of Dayton in exchange for, let's say like our 1%, we would give back to Dayton or to Springfield to let the residents save that 1% they were paying New Carlisle, they would pay it to Springfield instead. It would defeat the whole purpose of raising the income tax if we turn around and give it all back to Dayton or Springfield. That's not going to help New Carlisle. We need to keep it here. If we had if most of our residents worked in New Carlisle, it might be a different story, but they don't.
So it's also the issue that everyone, we've said this before, the issue that everyone in New Carlisle works in a bigger city, Springfield, Huber, Dayton, Kettering, but nobody in Dayton and Springfield, other than maybe 2 or 3 people,
Comes to New Carlisle.
does not work in New Carlisle.
Mr. McIntyre.
And a few weeks ago, I contacted you about getting involved with the Dayton metro area consortium of cities or something, and it was a program they had for all the big suburbs. And we looked into that and basically got the cold shoulder because we aren't big enough for them to like us, and we're also not in Montgomery County, which I think was the big point. And so any tax deal, because part of that was tax or whatever it was, we were sort of shut out from that because of both our location and our size.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
May I say something first?
Absolutely, you're the boss.
I'm not. It's obvious we need it. We need the money. Last year, we were just in the black at the end of the year. We have to stay in the black. We had to let some things slide to be able to do that. This is going to generate, if it's passed, around $500,000, which will be used, again, I want to specify, for police and also for streets. That's the only two places that can be used. We desperately need it. Just to let you know, I've got the workup again of, there are 5 communities within our area that are 1% at the moment. And 4 of them are villages, and we're the only city. There are 10 that are 1.5%, and there are 15 that are 1.75 or more. So that'll give you an idea of other communities around the area. One other point I wanted to make, if you itemize on your federal taxes, you actually are writing off your city taxes and your state taxes if you itemize your taxes, and just to let you know that. That's good. Now, Mr. Lottle, you had another comment, please?
Yes, and Kim, please don't take offense to this about the reciprocity. Just want to take that one step further. If New Carlisle was to pay the reciprocity to other cities, it would be like us giving them a $20 bill, and we get a $5 bill back, because we would be paying back money for everyone who works in another city. They would be giving us nothing back because none of their people work here. So we would basically be trading $20 bills for $5 bills, basically. We would be giving money away that we could never recoup. So when you hear people say, I talked reciprocity and all this and it didn't work and all that, it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. It never happened. It can't work.
Okay, anyone else? Any other comments? Anyone? Audience? Anyone out in the audience? Any comments at all? Okay, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Craybacher?
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry?
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre?
Yes.
Mr. Zambach?
Again, I'm voting to place this issue on the ballot, and I'm voting yes to place it on the ballot.
Mr. Reynolds?
No.
Mr. Rick Lowry?
As Mr. Zambach said, I am voting to place it on the ballot and allow the people to speak in a democratic way and do their choice.
Passed 6-0 to 1.
Thank you. Now we're into other business. I think Mr. Mike Lowry would like to show us something from the Heritage of Flight, if you would, please.
Sure. Our 10th, I've mentioned this a few times, our 10th anniversary festival is coming up. We just had these printed. They're going to be for sale on our website, heritageflight.com. And, all proceeds to this and our Buy a Boom fundraiser is going to go to be bringing fireworks back to New Carlisle this year on the new 4th of July, which is October. How much are they? So we're just going to get rid of the 4th and make it October. These are going to be $15 on our website. And they're not on our store yet on the website, but if you want one before we get them actually on the website, you can contact us through our Facebook page, which is New Carlisle Heritage Flight on Facebook.
Would you like to talk a little more on the Buy a Boom or the fireworks, how much it's going to cost?
I sure would. Let me grab a
Why we have the Buy a Boom to try and come up with the money?
Buy a Boom is a fundraiser we're doing, and you can go to our website or our Facebook page, and Buy a Boom is basically go in and a minimum $10 donation to basically buy one of the fireworks to help us out with the cost. The cost for our fireworks is budgeted around $5,000 to $7,000. Now that's not going to be a Wright Pat Air Force Base fireworks show, but it would be something similar to Troy and St. Paris and things of that nature. So, every dollar helps. You can make a $10 donation, or you can make a $7,000 if you feel like you want to spend some money. We get a lot of people that are making donations in memory of family members, people who have passed away in the military, You can make it your business name or just your personal family name or things like that. So we would appreciate anybody that'd like to help out with that and help us out with the festival this year. And if you have anything else to add, you feel free.
That's it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Mr. Zambon.
When are the fireworks and where?
October 4th, it'll be Saturday night during the festival, and right around when it gets dark, I'm assuming in October, it'll be, I don't know, 9:30ish, I'm guessing. And they're gonna be shot over Main Street, so we don't, normally they were shot off down at the baseball field, but we don't wanna pull the crowd away from Main Street during the festival. So we're gonna have them shot up above Main Street, right around the stage area, so you can kind of stay on this Main Street, eat your fair food, and have a good time. The good thing is, late July, the companies are going to come out and shoot 5 test fireworks off, so we can make sure we get the right projection and you can see everything over the building. So we'll announce that on our Facebook page. So if you want to come up and see the test shots, just to get an idea of where you might want to be that weekend and get a good seat. So we hope to see everyone there. Thank you.
Anyone else, other business? Anyone? Anyone out in the audience? Anything? Other tonight? Okay, Mr. Collier, would you go ahead and read the rest of?
Yes, Mayor. City offices will be closed on Friday, July the 4th, 2014. There'll be a joint government meeting Monday, June the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Tecumseh High School. And the New Carlisle Crime Watch will meet Wednesday, June the 11th at 6:30 p.m. here at Smith Park Shelter House. And Mayor, the next council meeting will be on Monday, June the 16th.
Thank you. One question, we have a couple, I believe, that are going to be there from the council, is that correct?
I'll be there.
Bill, you said you're going to be there, so I think we have a couple of council members. I can't make it on a Wednesday night, Mr. Zambon can't make it on Wednesday night, because we have previous engagement torturing little white balls.
I saw you last Wednesday.
Torturing them, we torture them very well. Executive session, there's none tonight, and
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
do that.